Nissan had just announced to the world that the final R35 GT-R rolled off the production line. According to the headlines, there are several reasons for the discontinuation of the R35 GT-R. One of the biggest hurdles for Nissan was the establishment of stricter global emission and noise regulations, ultimately forcing Nissan's hand to retire the iconic R35. While regulations were the spearhead, other factors contributed to the ending of the GT-R revolution that began strong back in 2007. For over 17 years, the GT-R has been the giant slayer, the supercar killer, the descendant of Godzilla. This week, Nissan's built the very last one, a premium edition T-spec finish and iconic midnight purple paint. The send-off from the company was incredibly emotional. This was never the initial plan. Looking back, Nissan actually intended for the R35 GT-R to continue for another 17 years, with a strategy of relentless year-on-year performance updates. But global regulators ultimately pushed the aging R35 platform into an early exit. What's that? Nissan is finally retiring the R35 GT-R in 2041. Oh, this thing's ancient. Hey, Grandpa, did you used to have one of these cars before? Yes, kid. I had the first edition in 2007. And it felt like 1,000 years ago. And I was there, picking up my R35 GT-R. If you look back on the GT-R's evolution, it started with the Hakosuka or Hakosuka. This was a rear-wheel drive monster powered by a race-tuned, straight-six engine adapted for the streets. On the track, it was a dominant force, achieving a remarkable 50 victories in Japanese touring car races in just under 3 years, from May 1969 to March 1972. It was followed by the Kenmeri Skyline GT-R. The formula didn't change drastically apart from the looks, which were heavily influenced by the American muscle car scene of the late 60s, and some minor performance updates like the adoption of four-wheel disc brakes. It sounds standard now, but back then, four-wheel disc brakes on a production car were a big deal, comparable to having carbon ceramics on a Civic today. The next GT-R was arguably the most dominant. It significantly changed the formula. I give you the R32 Skyline GT-R. A Japanese thoroughbred powered by a twin-turbo 2.6-liter engine paired with an intelligent all-wheel drive and all-wheel steering system. Though officially rated at 280 horsepower, everyone knew it was capable of much more. On the track, its dominance was absolute, winning 29 out of 29 races in the Japanese Touring Car Championship. In Australia, it humbled the V8 rivals, earning the legendary nickname Godzilla, the beast from the east that slays giants. We all know that the R32 GT-R Skyline was never sold new in the USA. Officially, it didn't meet the US Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards or emissions regulations. However, rumors have always swirled that the R32 was so advanced that American police forces simply couldn't keep up. I did a bit of a research on this. The most capable police cruiser of the R32's era was the Ford Mustang SSP, or Special Service Package. This Fox Body Mustang running a V8 could do 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 6.3 seconds. The R32 GT-R did it in just 5.2 seconds. It would have easily outpaced the Mustang in the corners thanks to its sophisticated multi-link independent suspension at the front and rear compared to the Mustang's solid rear axle, plus the sorcery of the Atessa all-wheel drive system. In simpler terms, the R32 could accelerate faster, corner harder, and put down power more effectively out of a bin. The ironic thing, the Ford Mustang SSP was marketed with the tagline, "This Ford chases Porsches for a living." Yeah, right. I'm speed, I'm power, and I was built to chase down Porsches. Look at this dude. You think he's special. Try to keep up. Moving on to the successors of the mighty R32, the R33 and R34 GT-Rs, these cars didn't radically change the formula established by the R32, but instead refined it. They featured improvements to the RB26 DETT engine, stronger gearboxes, and updated all-wheel drive systems to address the R32's tendency to understeer. Both won races in Japan and worldwide, but their most significant contribution was cementing the GT-R's place in global pop culture. These cars became stars in racing video games and movies, multiplying the number of GT-R fans globally. And I was one of them. When I was young, I was playing Need for Speed Underground, and I saw the R34 GT-R for the first time, and I thought, what the hell is this? Is it some sort of a BMW? But no, it was the iconic R34 GT-R. In 2007, the GT-R finally stepped out from the Skyline's shadow to become its own model. This move brought a new engine, the VR38 DETT, a 3.8-liter twin-turbocharged V6. It was mated to one of the most brutal and quickest transmissions ever made, the GR6 dual-clutch 6-speed. To optimize acceleration, this transmission was mounted onto the rear axle, classified as a trans-axle. This used the transmission's weight as a downforce during acceleration, unlike the mid-mounted gearbox of its predecessors, which was basically dead weight. The GR6 could shift in milliseconds and was responsible for the GT-R's savage launch control, which felt like being catapulted from a Mach 1 rocket. The R35 GT-R revolutionized the formula, moving from a straight 6 manual driver's car to a V6 dual-clutch record-breaking supercar. It outperformed the Porsche 911 Turbo around a track for half the price. The R35 won races globally and even achieved a Guinness World Record for the fastest drift ever at 304.96 kilometers per hour. However, its most iconic accomplishment was rewriting the supercar rulebook, dubbed the supercar killer. It dominated cars costing more than twice its price, becoming the benchmark. If your supercar couldn't beat an R35, it arguably shouldn't have been released. The R35 GT-R remained in production for 18 years, slightly exceeding Nissan's 17-year goal. Approximately 48,000 units were produced, and the model received continuous updates and special editions like the Takumi and T-Spec instead of traditional generational refreshes. Nissan focused on annual enhancements. Power rose from 480 horsepower at launch to 570 horsepower in the later models, with Nismo versions reaching 600 horsepower. It set new lap records at tracks like Tsukuba as recently as 2024. Despite this successful, ever-evolving run, global regulations finally caught up with our beloved beast. Stricter emissions and noise rules in markets like Europe and Australia forced its discontinuation. These compelled Nissan to accelerate plans for a hybrid successor, what we hope will be the R36. While Nissan initially downplayed electrification, executives later conceded hybrid power was more feasible for future performance and regulations. Another factor was ballooning cost. The GT-R's price increased significantly from $70,000 to over $120,000, hurting its value proposition. Its interior technology and design became dated compared to the newer rivals, and the core platform eventually reached its maximum performance potential. Meanwhile, rivals like the Porsche 911 Turbo adopted hybrid tech and advanced connectivity. As Nissan bid farewell to its halo car, the R35 GT-R, it's difficult to say if we get any replacement anytime soon. But before we get too emotional, Nissan's president and CEO Ivan Espinosa offered a beacon of hope in a message to fans. He stated, "This isn't a goodbye to the GT-R forever. It's our goal for the GT-R nameplate to one day make a return. This clearly isn't a cancellation of the GT-R, but a promise. A promise to continue the legacy when the time is right. And no one better to take lead on this promise but Ivan Espinosa, as he is a true car enthusiast from the core. The R35's impact was so massive, its shoes are impossibly big to fill. This has been evidence on the history of the GT-R. The formula of the GT-R has never been constant. It has consistently revolutionized itself with each generation, meaning the R36 GT-R could possibly enter hypercar territory, on where 1,000 horsepower is the norm, and electrification is undeniable. While this might make it less of an analog driver's car and more of a track-focused hypercar, the goal will be to break records. This is a monumental task for Nissan. R&D for a halo car is incredibly expensive, and Nissan has faced financial challenges, even reportedly considering alliances to secure its future. There's significant chance the R36 won't arrive soon. It reminds me of a quote from Mark Twain: "History never repeats itself, but it does often rhyme." This silence without a GT-R echoes to the 16-year gap between the Camry and the world-shocking R32 Godzilla. I hope it won't take that long, and that Nissan can sort out its challenges soon. My solution for the R36 GT-R is this: it doesn't have to choose between being a technological game changer and a driver's car. We can have both. First, Nissan must commit to the R&D necessary to develop a new flagship halo car, a true R36 that leverages hybrid technology to decisively surpass the R35's performance benchmarks. This is non-negotiable for the badge's legacy. This step would definitely involve a huge sum of money autonomy, and maybe some inspiration again from its competitions, maybe utilizing the Ferrari SF90's hybrid technology, but retaining the V6 engine power plant. But personally, I am more inclined on having an inline-6 engine. Nothing beats a screaming RB sound. Now, the interesting part, Ivan Espinosa did mention that a GTR badge is not something that can be applied to just any vehicle. I highly agree on this statement. Nissan isn't always known in listening to their fans. However, just this one time, hear me out. What if you expand the R36 GTR range, not dilute it like slapping the badge on every SUV in the lineup as it has arguably happened with Nismo. Instead, I propose a dedicated submodel within the R36 family, a variant engineered not for the Autobahn or the Nürburgring, but for the driver engagement. Imagine an R36 GTR TR spec. And yes, I coined that specification. And Nissan, you're more than welcome to use that. TR stands for Tugayron. This TR spec could be equipped with a manual transmission, perhaps utilizing the FS6 R31A gearbox from the new Nissan Z, and smaller turbos for more analog response. It would be a purist choice, a parts bin special focused on feel. This approach does two things. It protects the GTR status as a technological flagship while finally honoring the passionate fan base that has been requesting a more analog, engaging experience since the R35. But what do you think? Are you going to get an R35 now that it's discontinued and the prices might climb? Or would you wait for the potential R36 GTR?